The reading today is taken from Peace is Every Step, and these are the words of Thich Nhat Hanh. What's not wrong? We often ask, what's wrong? Doing so, we invite painful seeds of sorrow to come up and manifest. We feel suffering, anger, and depression, and produce more such seeds. We would be much happier if we tried to stay in touch with the healthy, joyful seeds inside of us and around us. We should learn to ask, what's not wrong? And be in touch with that. There are so many elements in the world and within our bodies, feelings, perceptions, and consciousness that are wholesome, refreshing, and healing. If we block ourselves, if we stay in the prison of our sorrow, we will not be in touch with these healing elements. Life is filled with many wonders, like the blue sky, the sunshine, the eyes of a baby. Our breathing, for example, can be very enjoyable. I enjoy breathing every day, but many people appreciate the joy of breathing only when they have asthma or a stuffed up nose. We don't need to wait until we have asthma to enjoy our breathing. Awareness of the precious elements of happiness is itself the practice of rightful mindfulness. Elements like these are within us and all around us. In each second of our lives, we can enjoy them. If we do so, seeds of peace, joy, and happiness will be planted in us, and they will become strong. The secret to happiness is happiness itself. Wherever we are, anytime, we have the capacity to enjoy the sunshine, the presence of each other, the wonder of our breathing. We don't have to travel anywhere else to do so. We can be in touch with these things right now. There ends the reading. Finding peace in broken pieces. The process of finding peace involves a compilation of practices because the way to find peace in life is not the same for everyone. In the Tao, Lao Tzu tells us, if there is to be peace in the home, there must be peace in the heart. Most people agree that a more peaceful world would be an ideal situation for all living creatures. However, we often seem stumped as to how to bring this ideal situation into being. But if we are to have true peace in this world, each of us must find it in ourselves first. Because if we do not like ourselves, we won't like those around us. And if we are in a constant state of inner conflict or have fighting within our families, friends, and communities of faith, we will probably manifest conflict, and there can be no peace in the world. When we initiate the process of looking inside ourselves for the meaning of peace, we will begin to understand why it has always been so difficult to come by. Being at peace with ourselves is not about denying or rejecting any part of ourselves. To the contrary, to be at peace means being willing to hold ourselves in a full embrace that excludes nothing. This is the most difficult part because we all want to disown the negative aspects of our humanity. Ironically, however, true peace begins with a willingness to take responsibility for our humanity so that we might transform it in the light of our love. Therefore, if we are to have true peace in the world, we must find it within ourselves. This will enable us to be compassionate toward the people who find themselves caught up in both personal and universal conflicts. Shining the light of inquiry on our internal struggles is the only place we can really create change. Moreover, we may have an experience of peace that we can call up in ourselves to remind us of what we want to create. However, we may also feel a pull in the opposite direction with a desire to keep what we feel belongs to us and the anger we feel when threatened. Peace both includes and transcends all our primal energy, much of which has been expressed in ways that contradict peace. This awareness is important because we cannot really know peace until we understand the tendencies and passions that threaten our ability to find it. It is heartening to know that our faith is known as welcoming and inviting, open to all without discrimination or fear of rejection. Despite unfortunate experiences in mainstream Christian churches, people are still open to the idea of church. But I see non-Christian Unitarian Universalists acting as if we are superior to Christians, as though we are more mature because we do not believe in Jesus or the Christian God. There's a discomfort with who we are that leads many of us to discount its value. In many cases, our personal and collective religious histories inspire this discomfort. It has to do with many of us coming out of Christian backgrounds after having had actively unpleasant experiences. Many of us have our own demons to fight, our own brokenness to heal, before we can accept our personal histories with Christianity or Unitarian Universalist roots in it. Individually, we must step into the darkness of our religious experience and dwell there. See what's uncomfortable, what hurts, what needs healing, and what we need to let go of. By doing so, we are opening ourselves to old and new pains. However, we are also healing Unitarian Universalism, one UU and one congregation at a time. And then there is part of our principles and purposes that says our traditions draw us from many sources, including Jewish and Christian teachings, which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. We draw from Jewish and Christian teachings which call us to respond to love. Until and unless we change that statement of principles and purposes, our religious heritage is intact and is explicitly something we look to for guidance and wisdom. But what is difficult, of course, is that loving our neighbors means we must try to love everyone, not just the neighbors who agree with us. The Dalai Lama suggests a way to get past anger after a disagreement. He says to remember that, like yourself, the person you're angry with is human and has similar fears and hopes. By trying to connect to a common humanity, you might be able to let go of some of the anger. It's such a simple yet revolutionary way of thinking. I know that each one of us knows someone, a coworker, a friend, or even a relative that drives us up the wall. We may be able to connect with them if we find some nugget of shared emotions between us. That means being hopefully realistic in the face of adversity, and we can also do that for religion. I had a UU ask me how I can be a Rotarian based on the assumptions of having to be in an environment filled with people that are presumed to be part of a political party opposite of mine and theirs. My simple response was that we work for a common goal of trying to make our community and the world a better place. I do not go out of my way to stick up for a political party that I find lacking compassion in human relations much of the time, but I have difficulty swallowing that it is okay to be prejudiced if your prejudice agrees with my own. Moreover, what my faith does for me and through me is it forces me to point out hypocrisy and humbly accept when my own is pointed out. What we can do for religion is recognize hypocrisy and work to eliminate it from our lives and our intentions and our interactions. A friend of mine told me about a 2-day seminar she attended on nonviolent communication. The facilitator of the workshop used the natures of jackals and giraffes to illustrate the differences between those who practice nonviolent communications and those who do not. Jackals, he said, are aggressors, always suspicious, on the hunt and looking for their next kill. They view the world through slitted red eyes. So, jackal communicators are out to hear themselves talk and get their points made. They first react with anger, then perhaps with thought. But more likely, jackal communicators will argue until their opponent gives up. And most anyone they interact with is considered an opponent. Giraffes, on the other hand, are gentle herbivores. Their long necks allow them to peer at things up close and pull back for a wider view. So, giraffe communicators listen. They think quietly about what they're hearing, and they try to see what need of the person they're talking to isn't being met. Giraffes put the other ahead of themselves. They take a few breaths, consider the other, and work to be gentle and thoughtful. Even when facing a jackal communicator, giraffes respond with compassion. Although it may be difficult to get someone who disagrees with our political or religion beliefs in a room with us, when we do, we can work to be a giraffe communicator rather than a jackal, even when we come up against a jackal instead of the gentle giraffe we're hoping for. Reaching across the political and philosophical gulf in religious and public discourse is what we can do for Unitarian Universalism today. It is what is needed of us. To bring peace from broken pieces, to be able to live our faith, we must know and understand our faith. That seems basic, but we are a denomination whose members are diverse in culture, belief, and passion. And most of us have come to Unitarian Universalism because it feels right to us. I encourage each of us to sit down with the principles and purposes and see what you really think about them. Ask yourself, do I agree with them? Which do I take to heart more than others? Let us figure out what we believe so that when we are actively shaping our liberal faith in the world, we know what it is that we are shaping. And while we are figuring out what we believe, consider this. We pride ourselves on being a faith that is welcoming to many beliefs and theologies, as we should. But in doing so, we often emphasize what makes us different from those in the pews beside us, instead of emphasizing what brings us together. As we examine our personal faiths and learn to better articulate them, we can look for commonalities in them, those elements of our individual beliefs that weave us together in the fabric of Unitarian Universalism. Recognize and celebrate our common values. Make it well known that the way you live your life is based on Unitarian Universalism. With the work that you're already doing in your communities, volunteering with the food bank, working at crisis centers, writing letters to the editor, you can say, I do this because I'm a Unitarian Universalist, and I believe that we are all interconnected and that every life has value. Whatever is true for you, however your Unitarian Universalism affects your daily activities and interactions, tell people. We're not going to be perfect Unitarian Universalist representatives all the time, just as Christians of any political stripe are not perfect representatives of Christianity, nor are Muslims, Buddhists, or Jews perfect representatives of their faiths all of the time. So let us just rid ourselves of that pressure and live your life tomorrow as you are today. But tomorrow, if you are not already, make sure you tell others how your faith shapes your life. We must declare our liberal religious beliefs as we take political action instead of simply cringing when we hear those on the religious right make sweeping statements about religion in America that doesn't apply to us. You must stop being afraid to talk about going to church because of what our non-church going friends and acquaintances might think. The voice of the faithful in America sounds like us too. Be proud to be a voice of liberal religion. Do not let notions about what a religious person in the United States sounds like stop you from putting your voice out there. In truth, we do lots of things right, and we can challenge ourselves and each other to do even more. Learn about and then make peace with our denominational religious history and with our personal religious histories. Be realistic but hopeful in the face of adversity. Recognize hypocrisy and work to eliminate it from your lives and interactions. When possible, reach across the political and philosophical gulf in religious and public discourse. Recognize and celebrate what you have in common with the people beside you in the pew. Add your voice to the collective voice of America's faithful. Evangelize about the good news of Unitarian Universalism. While we may not do all these things for our faith daily, we can recognize the ways our Unitarian Universalism shapes our lives and then make sure others see that. Where and what will we do collectively to teach this lesson, to do the work that we're appointed to do? Early Christian mystics spoke of lowering the mind to the heart, which is a simple practice to begin thinking from your heart and loving from your mind. Although we may have profound differences, we share a common bond as members of the human tribe. The vision of peace may begin with a spark, but sparks can turn into flames. Speaking out proudly and strongly for Unitarian Universalism may be the most important thing we can do for religion today. From my heart to yours, may it be